vampire built a castle to keep the world away. But when a human walks through his gates, fear turns to chaos, and love becomes his greatest danger. This is the story of Hotel Transylvania, where monsters hide from humans, and one mistake changes everything. 1899. In a wasteland of fog and grief, Count Dracula stood before an open grave. In his hands, ashes of the only light he ever loved. That night, he swore no monster would ever feel that pain again. So he built. Not for power, not for glory, but for sanctuary. Stone by stone, he raised a fortress that defied daylight, a cathedral for the damned. The villagers whispered of dark music in the hills, of candles burning where no one lived. But Dracula didn't listen. He carved a promise into every wall. If the world won't love monsters, I will. And with that vow, it came at twilight. One by one, a werewolf named Wayne, tired of chasing full moons. A mummy called Murray, who'd walked through eternity just to rest. Frankenstein, stitched from death, but longing for life. The castle filled with their howls, their songs, their jokes. For the first time, monsters were not hunted. They were home. Dracula watched from the balcony, cloak fluttering in the candlelight. He smiled, for the first time in centuries. Beneath that smile, though, lingered silence. Because even as the laughter rose, he felt the hollow beat of a heart that could never be warm again. The castle wasn't to protect what he'd made. Dracula wrote one rule in blood. No human shall ever enter these walls. The words burned into every door, every portrait, every prayer. To him, humans were the real monsters, destroyers of magic, murderers of peace. So he sealed his world. No postmen, no pilgrims, no hope. Inside, the monsters laughed. Outside, the forest grew quiet. Yet even in the heart of the castle, fear had its own heartbeat. Because the harder he tried to protect them, the closer he felt the darkness closing in. A kingdom. In the highest tower, under silver curtains of moonlight, lived Mavis. His daughter, his dawn, his greatest weakness. Her eyes shimmered with questions her father refused to answer. What lay beyond the walls? Were humans truly monsters? She dreamed of the stars she'd never touched, and of laughter that wasn't trapped by stone. But Dracula guarded her like a relic, fearing the world would burn her beauty away. So he told stories, twisted ones, of humans with torches and teeth sharper than fangs. Each tale made her wings shrink a little smaller, her courage dimmer. Love had become her cage. And through the glass, she watched freedom fall like snow she could never catch. It began with laughter. Not from a monster, but a man. A human backpacker named Jonathan, lost in the fog, stumbled into the woods searching for adventure. He didn't know the path he followed led to nightmares. When the gates of Hotel Transylvania loomed before him, he thought it was a theme park. Not even the howling wind or the eerie statues stopped his curiosity. One step, and he crossed the line between life and legend. Dracula felt it instantly, a pulse that didn't belong. The scent of humanity burned through the air. Fear twisted to fury. And for the first time in a century, someone broke his one unbreakable rule. Dracula panicked. If the monsters discovered a human among them, the peace he built would crumble. So he hid Jonathan, disguised him with pale skin, fake fangs, and a ridiculous accent. He called him Johnny Stein, a distant cousin of Frankenstein. Jonathan, confused but excited, went along thinking it was all a game. But to Dracula, it was survival. As Johnny explored the castle, something unexpected happened. The monsters liked him. They danced with him, laughed with him, treated him like family. And for a brief, impossible moment, Hotel Transylvania felt alive. Dracula watched in disbelief. The very creature he feared most was healing his home. Yet behind that smile, fear boiled. Because lies, no matter how well disguised, always come back for blood. Then came the spark that changed everything. Mavis met Johnny. Her eyes widened, not with fear, but wonder. She'd never seen anyone like him. So human, so alive. He spoke of sunlight, oceans, fireworks, and freedom, and every word broke a chain she never knew she wore. Dracula watched, frozen, as the impossible happened. His daughter was falling in love with the one thing he despised most. In the glow of the ballroom lights they danced, monster and man, heart to heart. The crowd cheered, unaware that the world they knew was about to crack. And in that moment, love became the most dangerous thing inside the castle. The truth never hides forever. As dawn neared, Dracula's secret slipped through the cracks. A werewolf sniffed something strange. The mummy noticed Johnny's tan. And when his wig fell off during the party, chaos erupted. Monsters screamed, dishes shattered, the dream collapsed. "A human!" they roared, fleeing in terror. Dracula tried to calm them, his voice trembling. He's not like the others. But the fear he'd built in them for centuries couldn't be undone in a night. Even Mavis looked at him. Not with love, but betrayal. Because in trying to protect her, he'd become the very monster she feared. The hotel that once echoed with laughter now echoed with silence and heartbreak. When the party ended, so did everything Dracula had built. Alone in the grand hall, he stared at the decorations, torn, broken, lifeless. His reflection in the glass stared back. Not a proud father, but a prisoner of his own fear. He remembered Mavis's first steps, her laughter, her dreams, and realized he'd chained them to his own pain. All these years, he thought he was protecting her. But fear doesn't protect. It only imprisons. The candles flickered like ghosts of memories. And for the first time in a century, Dracula whispered to the empty hall, "Maybe the real monster was me." Johnny couldn't stay. The truth had shattered too much. With his backpack slung over his shoulder, he turned toward the sunrise. The same light that Dracula had feared all his life. Mavis begged him to stay, tears glistening in her eyes. "You said love can overcome anything," she whispered. But Johnny shook his head. "Not if I'm the reason your world falls apart." He smiled, broken but brave, and walked away. Each step echoed through the empty hallways, a goodbye that cut deeper than any wooden stake. Dracula watched from the shadows, silent. For once, he didn't hide from the truth. He just let it hurt. When the sun rose, it touched the castle with gold. And something inside Dracula shifted. He remembered Mavis's smile, her questions about the world beyond the gates, her dreams of freedom. He realized that love wasn't about walls or safety. It was about letting go. Every monster he'd ever met feared the world outside, because he'd taught them to. But his daughter? She was born to live in it. Dracula's cloak fluttered as he stepped into the dawn. For the first time in centuries, he didn't burn. He changed. "For her," he whispered, "I will face the light." And with that, the Count of Darkness took flight, toward the world of the living. From the shadows to the city streets, Dracula raced the rising sun. His cape burned at the edges, smoke trailing behind him as he soared over mountains and rivers. Every second mattered. Johnny's bus was leaving. He dodged clouds, lightning, and disbelief, whispering apologies to the wind. The once feared Lord of Vampires now fought for love. People on the ground gasped, filming the flying figure of a legend reborn. His strength was fading, the sky turning gold. But the thought of Mavis, her heart breaking alone, pushed him harder. For love, for forgiveness. The morning sun rose over the valley, golden, merciless. Dracula flew faster, smoke trailing from his wings, eyes fixed on the highway below. He spotted the bus. The world blurred around him as he dove through the clouds, flames licking his cape. Inside, Johnny looked out the window and froze. A shape was chasing the sun, fighting to reach him. Then, the impossible happened. Dracula crashed onto the road, rolling, gasping, burnt yet unbroken. Cars screeched, people screamed. But the Count of Darkness stood tall. "I've spent my life hiding from the light," he said, voice trembling, "but not anymore. The sunlight hit his face, and instead of burning him away, it revealed the truth. Love is stronger than fear. Dracula approached Johnny, his cloak torn, his eyes soft for the first time in centuries. "I was wrong," he said, voice cracked. "All I ever wanted was to protect her. But I forgot that protection isn't the same as love." Johnny stared at him, speechless. "She loves you," Dracula continued, "and she deserves the chance to see the world with someone who reminds her what life means." Silence. Then Johnny smiled. "You're kinda scary when you're nice," he joked. The old vampire laughed. Really laughed. The two shook hands, the past fading behind them. Together, they turned toward the sunrise. The world had changed. When Dracula and Johnny returned to Hotel Transylvania, the monsters stood waiting. They had feared humans for generations, but now they saw one walking beside their Count. And the Count was smiling. Mavis ran into Johnny's arms, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. Dracula looked on, his heart lighter than air. The hotel erupted in celebration, laughter, music, fireworks that lit the sky with hope. The walls that once protected them had become windows to the world beyond. Dracula raised a glass. "To love, in every form," he declared. And for the first time in forever, monsters and man danced beneath the same light. And that's how one vampire learned that love isn't found in the dark. It shines brightest in the light. If you felt this story, if it made you laugh, or maybe even tear up, hit subscribe and join us for more emotional movie journeys every week. Because every film hides a heartbeat, and here we bring them to life. This is your channel for cinematic storytelling, and we're just getting started.